Well, good evening, and what a joy it is to see your beautiful faces for this wonderful night of celebration. We are so pleased that you took the time to be here this evening and to join in what we hope will be an unforgettable series of experiences. I invite you to turn with me now and watch the screens.
When I think about throwing open the doors, there's several things that come to mind. I think the first thing is just the spirit of that. It's not open the doors, it's this idea of throwing them open. There's something about an energy, almost an avalanche of energy that is so welcoming that it can't just be, hello, glad you're here.
We exist to invite all people to engage with the transformative power of the Bible.
We do a really good job of presenting the Bible from all these different lenses, from a historical lens, from an impact lens, from a story lens, and so it meets the needs and the desires of people who want to see the Bible from all these different aspects.
It's funny because we just completed a culture survey recently, and it was the number one thing that our internal staff pointed to is how welcoming they felt, which we hope we're conveying to everybody who walks in the door.
Anybody who embraces the Bible, there's a place for them here. The testimony is the fact that I'm here, because when I first came here, I said, I'm a Jewish rabbi. This is basically a Christian organization. And they said, we want you to be an Orthodox Jewish rabbi without apology. This is why we're hiring you. That's who you are to be, and that's who we want you to be.
Do I belong here? Am I able to come in? Is it okay? Having people from South Korea and Singapore and Africa and Japan, New Zealand, Australia, every continent. And our answer is absolutely.
One day when I was at my desk, I had a gentleman walk up to me and his eyes were all watering. He was an Amish gentleman. And he was worried that the message that we had here would not translate to his community. He was so moved, and he said that what I saw here today is exactly what we teach. It's the same Bible we teach and show. And he said, and I learned so much about it.
One of the greatest things about this museum is the technology that we have here. Because what it says is, don't think of the Bible as being an ancient relic of the past.
It's really remarkable the way the museum can take someone back on a journey over 2,000 years ago, but then instantly say, my goodness, you're in a contemporary moment, and there is no gap.
You're able to experience the Bible through a technological immersive experience. You can experience it through the antiquities, through the evidence of the Bible, through archaeology, and how it's been passed down through history so well and so consistently.
I see it on the faces of the teenagers that come and visit, where they come in and they're thinking, oh no, what am I going to see? And as they leave, their faces are lit up and they're talking about the things that they saw in the Hebrew Bible experience or the videos or the interactives, and they start to connect with the Bible itself.
What ignited in us an understanding of Scripture that we may not have had before? What ignited in us this understanding that the God of the universe, who deigned to reach down and see me, loves me? You can tell that something's been ignited in my own soul, and I've seen it happen right here at the museum.
I am very passionate about the Bible. I'm very passionate about God, and I get to share that with the people that come in, and it's great.
So many people have said, Carlos, I just get a feeling when I come to the museum. I just get this sentiment. It makes me feel so good that it's almost as though I'm home. And even as I leave, I carry it with me.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Weiss. I'm the vice chairman of our beautiful Ocean Reef Chapel and Fellowship Center. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to two very distinguished gentlemen, Dr. Aaron Ross and Dr. Anthony Schmidt. Aaron is the Chief Operating Officer of the Museum of the Bible, and Anthony runs the collections. The chief curator oversees the architectural preservation and entire collections of priceless, rare artifacts. Artifacts that explore humanity. Artifacts that tell us who we are and where we came from and what we believe in. The Museum of the Bible is one of the most peaceful, beautiful places on the planet. Tonight, I'm exceptionally pleased to say they are fulfilling a promise that was made to us when we opened our doors. We wanted to develop a building, a chapel that unified a community, 4 different faiths, all practicing religion in their way, in their own customs, in their own traditions. But how can 4 communities or 4 different groups not live together in harmony and unity? We partnered with what they did in Washington, D.C., and came up with what we believe was so important, a program of unity, faith, and community. But enough about what we tried to accomplish. Tonight, they're going to reveal rare religious, historical, and priceless artifacts that they had graciously given to the chapel, which will be on display permanently here, and also brought along with them other historical relevant artifacts for you to see tonight. So, after the conclusion of their talk, we'll say a couple of thank yous, and then we will open up the collection for the first time ever to be seen outside of the Museum of the Bible. With that, gentlemen, Aaron?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Weiss. I'm continuously blown away by just how amazing this chapel is, by the communities of this chapel, by the work of the board, of all of the ministers who have worked to make this happen, especially in unity. And I was really impressed by a phrase from the former ambassador when he talked about what is it going to do to fix the issue of unity. And he said one of the biggest issues is that we're cut off from our past. And I'm here to say, if you don't know much about the Museum of the Bible, there is a 430,000 square foot edifice to Scripture in the heart of Washington, D.C., to help people remember the past. We exist to invite people into a transformative, to engage with the transformative power of the Bible, the thing that we know that if people really could get inside of them would make a difference. And so that's what our museum does. It represents, from this video I think you just saw, such a beautiful reality about that bringing together people from different Christian and faith traditions. We have rabbis on staff. We have our director of exhibits is Jewish. Right? I myself, I'm an Anglican priest. We, in some ways, look like this community does, coming together to engage with unity. And so we are so excited about what's coming to the Museum of the Bible. And we just wanted to give you a couple quick things to know about the museum and then talk about the items that we've brought here to show you. First, starting in just a few days, again, to help people remember the past, to understand this shared common experience that we have, opening in just 2-3 days, we'll be having the Dead Sea Scroll exhibit at the Museum of the Bible. We're going to be having 24 different fragments over 9 months displayed at the Museum of the Bible. It's going to be an incredible time. It's going to be from November to September of next year. In it, we've got some other amazing artifacts, things like the Magdala stone, which I wish I could tell you about, but I don't have time, so you just have to ask me afterwards. So that's fine, right? And then next year for the 250th, in light of the conversation that happened on this stage today, next year we're going to be having a series of speakers come to the Museum of the Bible to talk about how did the Bible, how did Hebrew Scripture, how did the Christian Bible, how did it influence the founding of America? So we're going to have scholars from Robbie George to Rabbi Soli who are going to come and actually teach people to remember again what it is that was the founding kind of document and guidance for the creation of America, right there in the heart of America, right? Next fall, we have icons that are coming for the first time ever, leaving Patmos. Greek Orthodox icons coming to be displayed outside of Patmos for the first time ever, right? It's such an exciting place to be, and we are so thrilled to have this partnership with the chapel at Ocean Reef about how do we help work together to build this unity that we keep talking about. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is pass it over now for the moment to Dr. Schmidt so he can talk about some of the items that we've brought that we have right out here for you to see after this.
Thank you, Aaron, and it's truly an honor to be here tonight. This is my first time here at Ocean Reef, and Aaron's been here before and told me wonderful things, and I can confirm that everything he said was true. So thank you for your hospitality, and thank you for your graciousness and kindness in inviting us here. It really is an honor. And we're really proud of this partnership that's growing with Ocean Reef, and we hope to see it grow and deepen in the coming years. So again, thank you, Michael, for having us. I'll start with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can we go ahead and put some of the artifacts we brought up tonight? Next year is going to be very busy. Next year is going to be very busy, and we're going to kick things off actually this week with the opening of our Dead Sea Scrolls exhibition. As Aaron said, we are hosting 24 authentic Dead Sea Scroll fragments here at the museum. And what's interesting about these is that the Dead Sea Scrolls almost never leave Israel. You know, these are so precious. They were discovered in the cave system around the area of Qumran and in 1947 and in the following years. And they shed a tremendous light on the transmission of the Bible, but also Jewish life in the Second Temple period. And this is going to overlap some with even the life of Jesus. And since their discovery, they've been instrumental for scholars, both Jewish and Christian, to understand better the history of the text and to produce even more accurate and better translations. And so, speaking of a shared history between Jews and Christians, the Dead Sea Scrolls and its discovery was just a tremendous moment. So we're honored to have them, and this is brought to the museum in partnership with the Israel Antiquities Authority, the governing body over all the artifacts that are found in Israel, and that relationship's just really blossomed since our opening. We're proud of that as well. So the object we brought tonight in the lower right corner, this is a facsimile that was created using the same methods and same materials as the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we can't travel with a scroll, but we brought the closest thing that you can have to a real authentic fragment here. And this is actually a fragment of Ecclesiastes. This is only 2 fragments in the thousands of fragments found in and around Qumran were Ecclesiastes, only 2, which is interesting. But the rest of the objects are going to speak to another important initiative that we have going on. Of course, as we heard our speakers mention tonight, this country has a big birthday coming up next year, 1776, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. We'll celebrate the 250th year of that next year. We're not alone in this, right? There's so many organizations across the United States and even across the Atlantic that will be commemorating and celebrating this moment. So what does the Museum of the Bible have to offer, right? What does the Museum of the Bible have to offer? But in some ways, what we're going to talk about in that exhibition is the fact that the American Revolution probably would have happened without the Bible, but it would have looked a lot different. The Bible was so ingrained and embedded in colonial life that it was inseparable. It was, of course, a religious text. Thousands of sermons were were preached throughout the colonies on any given Sunday, and thousands more pamphlets were published that these preachers would publish. They would publish their sermons, and they widely circulated throughout the 13 colonies. But it's also a civic text. It's also a civic text. So it became part of the vernacular in the colonies, right? The ideas, the themes, the symbols, the language of the Bible was a unifying force within the colonies, across these disparate 13 colonies. And so we're telling the story about that. How did it become a unifying force? And some of the metaphors that we heard mentioned tonight, the stories, so the Exodus story was extremely popular in the Revolutionary period. Same with the story of King David, his whole life, but specifically, David and Goliath, episodes like that you read in the Bible. So applying those stories to the situation in America, or the British colonies at that time, really gave meaning to the conflict and helped motivate people and encourage people during a really dark time. But it was also a political text. So, wide studies that have been done on political pamphlets, for example, that were published in the period. Who wants to guess what the most widely cited text in all the political pamphlets that were published in the colonial period? It's Deuteronomy, right? That was actually more than Montesquieu and some of these other Enlightenment thinkers. Twice as often, as frequently as John Locke. So that says quite a bit about how pervasive the Bible had become in the British colonies and what it would, the role it would play after the Revolution. Even founders that were pretty skeptical of organized religion in the Bible, such as Thomas Jefferson, knew the value that the Bible had as a civic text, as a unifying text. There's a great fear after the Revolution that the system that they created, this new republic, this American experiment, would fail. It would fail. That people would succumb to these baser desires. That they would turn back to fighting and there'd be rivals between the colonies and political factions. And it was a deep fear that the United States wouldn't be able to hold itself together. It was such a large territory, and it was expanding. So what could be a unifying factor in the United States without an established church, without formal institutions that were religious? The Bible would. So even Thomas Jefferson was advocating in his arguments for religious freedom, for religious liberty, for disestablishment, the role of the Bible as a way of creating moral citizens that could sustain a republic. And so that sense of a unifying text in American culture was pervasive in the early 1800s. And so some of the objects we bring tonight, let's see, I'm having, the one in the center, and we'll start with that. We'll go chronological. The grammar of the Hebrew tongue. This was produced by Judah Monas, who was the first Jew in the colonies to receive an advanced degree. He taught Hebrew at Harvard College at the time and taught thousands and thousands of political leaders and scholars and religious leaders over his career, which spanned almost 40 years. And this copy is particularly interesting because, as you'll see in the display that we have set up in the neighboring room, that it's signed by a man named John Hancock. Now, John Hancock, not the famous John Hancock with the large signature, but his grandfather is likely his grandfather that owned this book as a student. And it just shows the way that the Bible was even embedded within the educational systems in the colonial era, and the influence that it would have on the leaders that it would produce, these systems would produce. The one on the lower left is John Brown's Self-Interpreting Bible. So this was published in 1791, and it's coming on this wave of Bible publications after the Revolution. And this one's particularly unique because Bibles of this size, and well, actually most Bibles in this period were published using a method called the subscription method. So they wouldn't publish an entire Bible all at once. You would subscribe and you would pay certain monthly dues, and you would receive quires of the text as they were produced by the publisher. It was a way of offsetting costs and sharing risk for these publishers. Well, this one's famous because it actually published its list of subscribers, hundreds of subscribers that paid for the publication of this text. The first one that they list is a guy named George Washington. Okay, and the others are John Jay, all these founding figures who were instrumental in the formation of this country subscribed to this Bible. And in fact, I learned in the process of developing this exhibition that we'll be doing is down at the Masonic, I forgot their name, it's down in Northern Virginia. It's the Masonic Memorial dedicated to George Washington. Anyway, they have a lot of material and texts that are from George Washington's life, including the family Bible. Okay, and what's the family Bible? It's the John Brown Bible that he subscribed to. So it has all the notes and some of the family lineage and genealogy in there. So it's a wonderful piece to bring. And what's unique about this one is it has this wonderful illustration near the title page. This is called a frontispiece. And you can't see it here, but if you come and look at the Bible, when you come see the display, you'll notice three figures. Okay, one is seated, wearing a Native American headdress. That's the personification of America. And there are two other figures, Greek-looking women that are, one is the personification of liberty, and one is the personification of peace. And it's peace that's handing America, who's seated there, a Bible. So peace and liberty are presenting America with a Bible. So again, going back to the what I mentioned a little bit earlier of the importance of the Bible in the minds of colonists, of many colonists, for the success of the nation. But that's not all. We have to the 19th century, we have a Tekim Sopherim, which is a model Torah text that scribes would use to copy the Torah and to check their work for its accuracy. Now, the exact time period of this is roughly the 19th century. There's not a lot of identification marks on these types of texts because they're so holy. So we do know, though, from a few signatures that you find within the text, that this was owned by a man named Jacob Sarna, who was the grandfather of the wonderful scholar and advisor to the museum, Jonathan Sarna at Brandeis University. And we actually had been working with Jonathan for quite some time, but we did not know that his ancestors owned this text until we started doing some provenance research on it. It's pretty remarkable. But again, it goes to the shared history between Jews and Christians, because this is unique in the sense that it's handwritten. Most of the model texts in the 19th century actually were printed. So this is unique in itself. But the production of the Bible in the 19th century was widespread, and the industry included both Jews and Christians who were making groundbreaking contributions. And then finally, we have the Revised Standard Version. This was a landmark text that was published in 1952. And this was published by the National Council of Churches. And what's unique about this, they brought together, it's the National Council of Churches, but this is an ecumenical group. Okay, and in the translation committee included people from a wide swath of religious backgrounds, including Jews, Anglicans, Baptists, and a number of other traditions. And they came together to update and produce a text that was more widely readable and hopefully more available for average people. And by the 1990, it had sold over 55 million copies. 55 million copies is quite remarkable. And it would be revised again and again, and it'd be influential in a number of other translations published in the 1990s. So we're absolutely thrilled to show you these objects. And Aaron, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, two really wonderful announcements that we want to give. And it's been floated already, so we'll start first with this. The objects that you see at the top, the Tikkun Seforim and the Revised Standard Version, those are donations from the Museum of the Bible to Ocean Reef. And so, yeah, it's if we tell you why these two texts, when we first started the idea of how do we build our connection still with Ocean Reef, how do we strengthen the partnership, we were thinking about what makes this chapel special in the way that you are so interfaith, in the way that you bring these different groups together. And these two texts really kind of speak to that engagement of bringing these communities together, right? So we have our Hebrew text, but also this text of the New Revised Standard Version, this first edition that has the Apocrypha in it for our Catholic brothers and sisters. It has a text that is widely recognized amongst these Christian groups. And so we're so excited that there's a case that we have brought with us as well to, we didn't bring it with us. These gentlemen actually put it together. I can't believe they did that. It's really hard work. But we have it here so it can be permanently here with you, these two objects. We're excited for these two things. We're excited to continue to build the unity between our two places and the wonderful work that God is doing amongst all of us. So thank you.
So with that, I want to thank Aaron. I want to thank Anthony. We are a very grateful community for everything that the MOB has done for us, and we look forward to working with you in the future for many years to come.